I wanted to see how the media would frame Donald Trump's statements, because he started off with like emotional calls and being like, I was shot. It was so emotional. I cried tears. I will never tell you the story ever again. And it's like, he did that, and that's fine. You know, he's going to milk it. Obviously, he got fucking shot at. But then he turned around and basically did the rally, I think, that he was going to do before he got domed. Like, he literally went for 2 hours nonstop. He broke his previous records in both 2016 and 2020 for longest speech at a convention. And he was unstoppable in terms of yapping. And the yap sesh got so out of control and so fucking boring. Lots of papers clearly printed today's front pages based on the prepared, not the delivered remarks. It's obvious. In a departure, Trump calls for unity, healing in America. Trump emphasizes unity from the Dallas Morning News. Pioneer Press, Trump takes a unity tone. He did not. After attempt on life, can Trump unite the U.S. from the RNC? And it's so obvious. Trump, we must heal discord. Somber Trump pledges everything I have to give. And it's like so obvious that they just did not listen to the speech and turned around and wrote it. This was not even remotely different from any of his like normal speeches. The only difference in this speech was that he did not call out Joe Biden by name, with the exception of like 2 or 3 different times. But over the course of the 2-hour speech that he delivered, he rarely talked about Joe Biden, which I think was strategic. And it wasn't because he wanted to do a call for unity. It was because he knows that Joe Biden might not be the candidate. So he switched the narrative from Joe Biden to this administration. He kept saying this administration. Why did he say this administration? Because he recognizes that there's a high likelihood that Joe Biden drops out and Kamala Harris replaces him on the ticket. Tonight has been a journey for us all. Oh, here, this is a pretty good summary of like how the speech started and where it went. It's a weird but pretty good speech. The past few weeks have gone about as badly as possible for Democrats, and they're likely underdogs against Trump, regardless of who they nominate. But the opportunity to reset the campaign with a non-Biden nominee is a twist of good fortune. Semi-retract this tweet. This speech is boring as fuck, but there are worse things politically speaking than being boring. Fully retract and rescind. Sometimes it seems like both parties are trying to throw this election. It's not sometimes, it's all the time. Everything that I have seen from both parties so far in this election cycle is a race to the bottom. They are trying to do what Felix likes to call the record-breaking election where only 50,000 people vote. It legitimately feels like both parties are locked in this like weird secret deal where they're like, how can we get like 99% of eligible voters to not vote in this upcoming election? Republicans regularly at the state level keep doing insane shit. Like they're like, hey, I know right now that we are called the Christo-fascist party, but I don't really care. I do want to do Christo-fascism. I think we should, force everyone to read the Bible for 3 of the courses in class until grade 8. And it's like, why did you do that? Where did this come from? Absolutely 0 people were demanding this. Why are you just popping off like this? Let's get together. Let's bring all the Baptists together and let's officially make a statement about like restricting IVF, which is polling at like 90%, like 98% approval. You know what I mean? Why would you do that? That's the Republican side. On the Democratic side, we have a carcass. The Democratic platform is not unpopular. Democratic senators and Democratic congresspersons that are running on the same ballot underneath Joe Biden have been outperforming Joe Biden, sometimes by 10 points, which is insane. Now that number is actually closing in. Why is it closing in? Because people are recognizing that Biden is a fucking carcass. And that has down ballot consequences as well. You don't have a lot of split ticket voters. That's not like a real thing. Joe Biden, every other day when he is not like going, when he in his more coherent moments is talking about how much he loves Israel and talking about how much he wants to do Trump-style immigration policies, basically making sure that not a single Hispanic or young voter, sometimes both, because the Hispanic vote is pretty young in some of these important states like Arizona, Nevada, and New Mexico, is basically ensuring that no young Hispanic ever votes for him, okay? Which is weird. Don't understand why Biden is just like desperately trying to make it so that if you're under the age of 35, you just definitely won't vote for either candidate. So the instincts are very weird on both sides. Very strange election. But let's hear what the media had to say, because I feel like a lot of the reaction, I was fearful that a lot of the reaction to Trump's RNC speech was going to be the classic, like, he became president on this day. He was doing a great job. He was so united. I don't believe that live network television coverage is going to reflect that, because it was very obvious Donald Trump was not trying to be the great uniter last night at all. The only time he brought up unity, as a matter of fact, was when he was talking about how in order to unite this country, you have to drop all of the cases against me, which seems a little self-serving, doesn't it? All right, let's take a look at what the media had to say, though.
All right, turning now to that big night at the RNC and former President Trump's first speech since Saturday's attempt on his life. Accepting his party's nomination, he spoke of unity while also repeating the attacks and false claims that have helped divide this country. Tony is in Milwaukee, where he has been leading our coverage. Tony, good morning.
Good morning, Nate. You laid it out pretty well there. His voice was softer, his ear was still bandaged, and he promised to be president for all of America. But after Donald Trump detailed in sober tones Saturday's attempted assassination and said the division and discord must be healed, Donald Trump returned to being Donald Trump. He returned to form. And by the time he finished, after midnight Eastern time, he'd called the former House Speaker crazy, re-upped false claims of cheating last election, and accused Joe Biden of destroying America. So for more on this, I'm joined by Ed O'Keefe, who was on the floor with me to the balloon-filled Ed.
Yeah.
Good morning to you.
Good to see you. Look, there was that talk of unity, but perhaps most strikingly, the president spent much of the address recounting his harrowing brush with death.
I'm not supposed to be here tonight.
It was pretty cool when he said that President Bukele, which is a right-wing darling, by the way, Nayib Bukele, a right-wing darling, he is like spoken at right-wing conventions, okay? A crypto weirdo who swapped out the official currency of El Salvador to like Bitcoin, who is very famously incredibly reactionary in terms of dealing with crime in his country. He like built this massive prison facility. We've watched it before. We've watched like YouTubers go there. And Donald Trump claimed that Bukele was actually secretly sending all the MS-13 guys into the United States of America after training them to be more violent. Donald Trump also said hundreds of thousands of Americans are being murdered by migrants, which was crazy. It was nutty. Like the tone was a little bit different. He wasn't as fired up, which I think contributed to how boring the speech was. But having said that, the message was incredibly violent, incredibly reactionary.
Not supposed to be here.
The longest acceptance speech in convention history began with a dramatic recounting of the assassination attempt.
There was blood pouring everywhere, and yet, in a certain way, I felt very safe because I had God on my side. I felt that. If I had not moved my head at that very last instant, the assassin's bullet would have perfectly hit its mark, and I would not be here tonight.
Former President Donald Trump honored firefighter Corey Compertori, a father of two who died in the shooting protecting his wife and daughter.
He lost his life selflessly acting as a human shield to protect them from flying bullets. He went right over the top of them and was hit.
There were a couple moments where Donald Trump popped the fuck off, okay? When he kissed firefighter helmet, that was incredible. I thought that was wild. But also, when he blew a kissy poo at Hulk Hogan before his speech, I think that was the best part of the night. Here it is. Donald Trump blew Hulk Hogan a kiss after his RNC speech. I am not lying. That was incredible. What was he thinking? Like, what was going on there? It's just like, it literally jumped out of him. He is so bi-coded. He is zesty. I'm sorry. This is a lock. He got so excited at this big hulking man glazing him up. Okay. This big entertaining hulking man glazing him up. And goddamn, Hulk Hogan's speech was entertaining. I will admit that he literally, the emotions jumped out of him. And he just was like, what can I do in this moment? He wasn't even thinking at that moment. Like, he was just reacting.
What a fine man he was.
At times, Trump tried to emphasize unity, saying division in the country must be healed.
I am running to be president for all of America, not half of America.
But if reelected, Trump said he would work to restore
Southern speed, but isn't a Trump vote just further improving most of the average chatters in here? I feel like with how the economy has been, it can only aid better with our economy along with what is to come. Yeah, no. Donald Trump's policies did not improve your life, with the exception of the stimmy checks that you got during COVID. But beyond that, Donald Trump's policies did not improve the American economy, and it certainly did not improve the economy, the actual working class Americans, which many of my community is comprised of. I don't think I have a lot of landlords and real estate moguls in here. So I highly doubt that unless you're like, you know, C-suite executive at fucking Raytheon or whatever, or not even just Raytheon, but like ExxonMobil, I doubt that you saw genuine improvements in your material conditions under the Trump administration. You're just experiencing amnesia. Trump, like any grifter prophet, was inheriting an improving economy and took credit for it. Yeah, that's the classic. That is also the classic Republican gambit. Democrats come in and they have to redirect the economy, at least under like capitalist market conditions, redirect the economy under capitalist market conditions into like a growing economy. And then obviously their 8 years are over. So then the Republican can come in and fuck it up again, and then the Democrats have to come back in and fix it. It doesn't usually happen with a one-term swap. It usually happens at the end of 8 years. I mean, if you recall, George W. Bush absolutely gutted everything and oversaw the collapse of the American economy. And then Barack Obama had to come in and pick up the pieces and then change the direction, only for Donald Trump to come in and, you know, take advantage of that and drive it further off of a cliff. This was a unique moment. What you're describing is not the norm. George H.W. Bush raised taxes and Clinton took credit for the surpluses. What I'm describing is something, I mean, it's a pretty common trend.
Will be fixed, and it will be fixed very, very quickly.
Former First Lady Melania Trump made her first appearance of the week last night to watch her husband accept the nomination, as did Trump's oldest daughter, Ivanka Trump, Jared Kushner. The evening at times resembled a pro wrestling tournament, less a traditional campaign rally.
When they took a shot at my hero, and they tried to kill the next president of the United States.
This was fire.
Enough was enough. And I said, let Trumpomania run wild, brother.
Delegates like...
That was sick. That was actually sick. I'm sorry. I mean, it's very stupid and everyone will be like, oh, it's idiocracy. But honestly, that was fire.
Brooke McGowan from North Carolina believed Trump's speech capped a momentous week for Republicans.
He took a bullet for us on Saturday, and we could have had a much different outcome this week. This could have been a week of mourning and scrambling to try to figure out who would be our nominee, because no one can hold a candle to Donald J. Trump.
In response to the speech, the Biden campaign noted former President Trump never made any mention of issues like access to abortion services or his support for January 6 rioters, and they said the choice for voters now has never been more clear. Tomorrow, Trump heads for his first campaign rally with his running mate, J.D. Vance. They're off to the battleground state of Michigan, Tony.
Trump literally kissed everything but his wife last night. You're wrong. He did kiss his wife. He kissed his wife on stage after his speech was over. I watched it. Don't ever come for my president like that.